Every once in a while, something happens in the NFL that makes you stop dead in your tracks. Not a game-winning touchdown, not a blockbuster trade. I'm talking about a moment that cuts through all the noise, the cliches, the contracts, the highlight reels, and exposes the raw truth about a team, a player, and the league itself. That's exactly what just went down in Cleveland. And at the center of it, Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback who isn't just playing football, he's rewriting the rules of the NFL spotlight. This one hit different. Why? Because Shedeur Sanders, the kid everyone's been hyping, the guy with the charisma, the swagger, and yes, the endorsements, finally spoke up. And let me tell you, he didn't come to toss out some polite, rehearsed media answer. No, this was a truth bomb detonated right in the middle of the Browns facility. If you want the real story, the messy behind-the-scenes drama they never show on highlight reels, stick around. Seriously, hit that subscribe button because this quarterback saga is far from over. Now picture this, media day. Cameras flashing, reporters elbowing each other for the best angles, asking the same tired questions you've seen 1,000 times. Usually, these pressers are like watching paint dry. Players reciting cliches, I just want to help the team win, or I'll do whatever the coach asks. But Shedeur? He didn't come to play along. He walked in composed, sharp, almost like he knew this was his moment to rewrite the entire narrative. And then the bait was thrown. The Browns' assistant GM had just praised Dillon Gabriel, officially calling him QB2, and suggesting that Shedeur might have to wait his turn. For most rookies, that's background noise. For Sanders, that was gasoline on a fire. The reporter asked him for a reaction. And instead of a shrug or a smile, Shedeur locked eyes with the camera and delivered it straight. I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know what game they're watching, because I've put in the work. I've shown what I can do. And I'm not here to sit behind guys who don't have my talent. This feels like they're trying to set me up to fail. And I'm not going to let that happen. Boom. Silence. You could practically hear the PR department losing their minds, phones ringing, heads spinning. And honestly, that's just the beginning. Here's why this matters. This wasn't a venting session. This was strategy. Sanders used his platform to send a crystal-clear message. 1, he believes he's the best option on that roster. 2, he knows the Browns are mishandling him. And 3, he refuses to play the humble rookie game that the NFL forces on young quarterbacks. He took control of the story before anyone else could. Now let's get real. The NFL has a long-standing double standard. Be quiet, soft-spoken, and humble. You're professional. Be confident, outspoken, unapologetic. Suddenly you're arrogant, a distraction, a problem. And for young black quarterbacks, that line has been razor-thin for decades. But Shedeur? He's bulldozing that line. He's saying, if my talents, stats, and resume speak for themselves, why am I wasting energy on politics instead of football? Look at his college career. Numbers off the charts, poise under pressure, leadership that could carry a locker room, and charisma that makes fans buy in after one press conference. He's not just a player. He's a brand, a product, a force. And the Browns, of all teams, are acting like they can afford to play games with him. The irony is brutal. This is a franchise built on quarterback mismanagement. Their brand, if anything, is turning quarterbacks into cautionary tales. And now Shedeur is calling them out in real time. Think about the guts it takes to do this. Most rookies would choke. They'd keep their heads down, afraid to lose reps or endorsements. Not Shedeur. Why? Because his platform is bigger than Cleveland. He's already validated. Nike endorsements, media buzz, the lineage as Deion Sanders' son. The Browns need him, not the other way around. Of course, the backlash was instant. Old-school analysts wagging fingers. He needs to learn humility. Scouts whispering about character concerns. But the fans? They loved it. People are tired of robotic quarterbacks reciting lines. They want authenticity. They want players who speak their truth, who aren't afraid to disrupt the narrative. And Shedeur delivered. And now we have to talk about Deshaun Watson, the elephant in the room. Sanders was essentially calling out the team for propping up Watson, hiding behind his massive contract. If that's true, every word Shedeur said was justified. Watson hasn't delivered the wins. Yet the franchise clings to him while young talent waits in the wings. That's where frustration comes from. Sanders isn't whining. He's exposing the entire system. And what about Kevin Stfansky? Reports say he was livid, red-faced, veins popping, furious that a rookie dared challenge the system. But here's the kicker. The narrative isn't his anymore. Once Sanders spoke, the optics changed. Every time Watson or Gabriel struggles, fans will be thinking, Why isn't Shedeur playing? Every blown lead, every misstep, it now circles back to him sitting on the bench. Stfansky can't control that. This is the Browns' history coming back to bite them. Remember Johnny Manziel, Brady Quinn, Brandon Whedon, Baker Mayfield? Flashy QBs, all mishandled, all failures, all cautionary tales. Now a real star lands in their lap, and what do? Bury him. Sanders didn't just call it out. He exposed the pattern. And yet, through all this, Sanders doesn't come off bitter. He comes off savvy. His honesty wasn't petty. It was confident. He wasn't whining. He was asserting his value. That's leadership, and it's in his blood. Growing up under Deion Sanders, he learned the media game. Turn controversy into fuel. Make headlines work for you. Criticism doesn't break him. It propels him. The aftermath. Chaos. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Cleveland's locker room didn't just get tense that day. It erupted into something that felt straight out of a primetime soap opera. You could almost hear the whispers echoing down the hallways, see the sideways glances exchange between veterans, feel the nervous energy crawling across the room. Dillon Gabriel, a guy who was supposed to be comfortably tucked into the QB2 role, suddenly found himself dragged into the eye of a storm that he never asked to be part of. And Deshaun Watson, his presence lingered like an unspoken name in every sentence, every meeting, every subtle pause in conversation. Nobody had to say his name out loud because the subtext was screaming. And right in the middle of it all was Shedeur Sanders. He didn't need to call anybody out directly. He didn't need to drop names. With a few carefully placed sentences, he cut straight through the heart of the organization, and the fallout spread faster than anything a coach or a PR department could hope to contain. It was like striking a match in a room soaked with gasoline, instant ignition, and suddenly, everyone was scrambling. And here's the real takeaway: authenticity sells. Confidence sells. In a league that has spent decades trying to box quarterbacks into neat little roles, the humble underdog, the silent worker, the smiling franchise face who never ruffles feathers, Sanders refused to play along. He walked into the spotlight and declared, without hesitation, that he would not be molded into somebody else's archetype. He isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He's a movement. He's unapologetic, outspoken, and savvy enough to know exactly what he's doing. Fans crave it. Sponsors crave it. And no matter how hard the NFL clings to its polished image, sooner or later the league is going to have to adjust, because the truth is, Sanders has tapped into something that's bigger than football. But let's talk about the fans, because that's where this story gets really messy. Social media exploded the second Sanders' words hit the airwaves. Memes, hashtags, hot takes, podcasts, debates, every corner of the internet lit up. Half of the fan base celebrated like they had been waiting their whole lives for someone to finally say what needed to be said. Finally, they shouted. Somebody called out this circus for what it really is. The other half, though, reacted with fury and disdain, crossing their arms and saying, "Who does this kid think he is? He hasn't earned the right to talk like that." And that clash, that split right down the middle, only poured gasoline on the fire. Because here's the reality. Whether people loved him or hated him, every single conversation revolved around him. The spotlight wasn't on Gabriel. It wasn't on Watson. It wasn't even on Stfansky. It was on Sanders. He had seized control of the narrative. And while everyone else scrambled, still stuck playing checkers, Sanders was moving his pieces with the calm precision of a man playing chess. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something. This was not whining. This was not a rookie throwing a tantrum or crying about playing time. This was calculated. This was deliberate. Sanders knew exactly what he was doing. The NFL loves its little boxes for quarterbacks, its tidy marketing archetypes. But Sanders? He shredded that script. He doesn't want to be the silent worker or the humble kid begging for his chance. He's creating an entirely new archetype, the outspoken truth teller, the voice that refuses to stay quiet, the one who says out loud what everyone else is too scared to say. And in a world where media and branding drive everything, that's pure gold. But let's not ignore the cultural weight of this moment, because it is impossible to separate. Sanders' words weren't just seen as confidence by everyone, they were branded as audacity. And we all know what that really means. A young black quarterback stepping forward, refusing to wait his turn, refusing to play the game the way the old guard demands, rattles people in positions of power. Imagine this. If Arch Manning had said the same words, the headlines would have been glowing. Leadership, they'd say. Passion, they'd say. Fire beyond his years. But Sanders? No, for Sanders it becomes arrogance. It becomes a distraction. The double standard is so blatant it hurts to watch. And here's the thing, Sanders knows it. He feels it. And maybe, just maybe, part of why he spoke up was to shine a spotlight on that hypocrisy. This isn't just about football anymore. It's about control. It's about agency. It's about refusing to let an organization dictate his identity. That's why younger fans adore him. They're tired of cookie-cutter quarterbacks giving robotic press conference answers that sound like they were written by a PR intern. They want someone real. Someone confident. Someone who feels like he's speaking to them, not at them. Sanders is that guy. He embodies the frustration of an entire generation that wants authenticity over polish, passion over platitudes. And the resonance is undeniable. Meanwhile, the league office is panicking. Not because criticism of teams is new, that's been happening for decades, but because Sanders represents a cultural shift that could upend everything. If more young stars take notes from Sanders, suddenly the league doesn't control the story anymore. The hierarchy cracks. Owners don't dictate the narrative. Coaches don't silence dissent. And the thought of that terrifies them. Sponsors, though? Oh, they're licking their chops. Every time Sanders trends, every time he goes viral, his value skyrockets. Controversy drives clicks. Clicks drive sales. And in this world, whether you love him or hate him, as long as you're talking about him, he wins. And that makes him a dream for brands. So let's hand out a few awards for this mess, because it deserves them. First, the Torchlighter Award goes to Sanders for igniting this firestorm with just a handful of words. Second, the PR Dumpster Fire Award goes to the Browns' assistant GM, who thought he was just casually praising Dillon Gabriel, and instead detonated a locker-room grenade. And finally, the Most Predictable Meltdown Award belongs to Kevin Stfansky, pacing and raging behind closed doors like a man who just realized control had slipped out of his hands. But here's the real question, what happens now? The Browns are staring at three possible roads. Option 1, they try to silence Sanders. Bench him. Leak stories to the media. Paint him as immature. But if they go that route, all they do is turn him into a martyr, the fearless rookie standing tall against a broken system. Option 2, they cave. They give him the shot. And if he delivers, if he shines under the lights, then suddenly the story flips. He becomes the prodigy who forced greatness on his own terms. Option 3, Sanders demands a trade. He blows the whole thing wide open. The league descends into chaos as franchises trip over themselves to acquire him. Any one of those outcomes is possible, but there's one thing you can guarantee. Sanders isn't going back into silence. That press conference wasn't a slip-up. It was a warning shot, and there are more in the chamber. Now imagine the fallout, because Cleveland isn't the kind of place where drama stays locked behind closed doors. It grows. It multiplies. It seeps into every corner of the building. In the days after Sanders' comments, the team facility became a pressure cooker, always buzzing with whispers. Veterans exchanging side-eye. Media vans parked outside like vultures circling prey. And at the center of it all, two men locked in a battle for control, Stfansky and Sanders. Stfansky has the title. He has the headset. But Sanders? He has the headlines, the fans, and the momentum. And in today's NFL, momentum wins. Behind closed doors, Stfansky reportedly lost it, pacing meetings, slamming markers, seething with the kind of anger that only comes from feeling humiliated in your own house. Years spent trying to build authority, and now a 21-year-old rookie calls him out, exposes the dysfunction, and rallies a fan base against him. That's not insubordination. That's a dagger to the ego. But Sanders? He didn't flinch. He walked into practice calm, cracking jokes, dapping teammates, firing accurate throws like nothing had happened. He dared Stfansky to cast him as the villain. And the players noticed. They saw who was tense and who was composed. Guess who they gravitated toward? The assistant GM who set this whole thing off? Probably hiding in his office, watching his harmless quote about Gabriel mushroom into chaos. That's life in Cleveland, a franchise that never seems to run out of kindling for chaos. Veterans fumed, wondering who Sanders thought he was. Rookies quietly celebrated, finally seeing someone bold enough to say what they'd been thinking all along. Sanders became their symbol, a reminder that they don't always have to play by the old rules. And that terrified Stfansky more than anything. Meanwhile, media vultures circled overhead. Every debate show, every podcast, every column turned into Sanders versus Stfansky. Betting markets even shifted, not because of a snap taken, but because of perception. That's the power of narrative. And Sanders, he owned it. Rumor has it Stfansky dragged Sanders into a private meeting. Nobody knows exactly what was said. Did Stfansky demand an apology? Did Sanders push back? All we know is they walked out colder than they walked in. And the very next day, practice told the entire story. Stfansky stood stiff, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. Sanders looked loose, laughing, leading, throwing darts. The rookie looked like the leader. The coach looked like a man losing his grip. And then there's Deshaun Watson, the ghost haunting this entire saga. Sanders practically said what everyone else has been whispering, that the organization is protecting Watson at all costs. And Watson feels it. His body language has shifted. Meetings are quieter. His authority feels fragile. Fans see it. Twitter erupts with chants of, "Let Sanders cook." They've had enough of mediocrity. They want the future, and they want it now. This is no longer just a quarterback battle. It's a fight for the soul of the franchise. Stfansky represents the old guard, hierarchy, patience, order, process. Sanders represents the new wave, authenticity, swagger, confidence, truth. And if you're asking me who's winning, look at the headlines. Look at the debates. Look at the way fans are talking. Sanders has already seized the crown. So what's next? 3 roads, all dangerous. Stfansky doubles down, benches Sanders, and risks alienating the entire locker room. Or the Browns cave, hand him the keys, and watch him either succeed spectacularly or expose everything they've been hiding. Or Sanders forces a trade, and the franchise once again becomes the team that let its brightest star escape before he ever had the chance to shine. No matter what, the Browns underestimated him, and now they're paying the price. So let's close with some final awards, because Cleveland always seems to earn them. The Checkmate Rookie Award goes to Sanders for flipping the narrative before taking a single professional snap. The Paper Tiger Leadership Award belongs to Stfansky, who still looks like he's in control while clearly losing the war. And the Here We Go Again trophy goes to the Cleveland Browns, a franchise that somehow always manages to turn hope into chaos.